Here to talk about the opioid settlement funds that were granted to the Women's Hospital in Newburgh are Perinatal Center Program Manager Taylor Fauerbach and perinatal social worker Sarah Jenkins.
Thank you, Noah, and thanks to both of you for joining us today on the Newsmakers. Well, let's start with the Perinatal Center. Basically, what is it? What does it do, the Perinatal Center at the Women's Hospital?
So the Perinatal Center is really just a name for the outreach that we do with all of the different facilities. So in Indiana, they actually have designations for the level of care. So making sure people deliver at the right place at the right time with the right resources. There are 9 hospitals in Indiana who are designated a center.
Okay.
And so we are able to make sure that those facilities have access to higher level of care, transport, the appropriate developmental follow-up for infants. And then it's also looking at the education and training that staff have. And so as the Women's Hospital, we are affiliated with 7 different facilities in Indiana. But being where we are in Indiana, we also kind of intersect with Kentucky and Illinois. And
Right.
although they have different levels of care, we try to aim to serve those facilities as well. So anywhere from hospitals that don't have OB services to facilities that do, making sure that even if a patient shows up, we're able to give them support.
Yeah.
So we are able to deliver what's called level 3 maternal and neonatal care. And so that means that we have the different specialists for obstetrics and our infants to make sure that they're able to have their conditions managed.
Yeah. Now, Sarah, you're a social worker. Can you tell us a little bit about your role at the Perinatal Center?
Yeah, I do mostly inpatient social work, seeing any patients that have any needs, ranging from families that have babies that go to the NICU or families that maybe don't have a place to stay and need some assistance, as well as I help run the perinatal support program, and that's an outpatient program to where we see any moms that and maybe they have a substance use disorder or they're in treatment, and we kind of help support them and educate them along the way.
Yeah. Now, I understand the opioid settlement funds, that national settlement, has obviously been used for a lot of medical facilities. Can you tell us how the Women's Hospital used those funds?
Yeah, so when we learned about the opioid settlement funds, we felt that the perinatal support program really fit well with that, as well as our NICU developmental follow-up clinic. And so what we were trying to do with those funds is we were trying to kind of extend that reach to our patients that are in our Evansville community. And so a lot of times when we have patients who are referred to this program, there's some type of barrier, whether it's the barrier of the communication, so trying to get a hold of them from a referral standpoint, but even then transportation. We know that we've got transportation infrastructure issues in Evansville, and it's not easy even to just get across that simple underlying bridge over by I-69 just to get over to Women's. And so how could we try to deliver that program to our patients even when they are close in our community, just giving them as much support as we can?
Yes. And maybe, Sarah, you can weigh in a little on that as well.
Yeah.
What kind of impact have you seen from these opioid settlement funds?
Yeah, so I really love the personal impact. I know a lot of people operate in numbers, but what means the most to me is when I call a mom almost a year postpartum to check in on them. I try to call them at least monthly to see how they're doing, see if they have any needs, because I want to make sure it's not just at time of birth, it's throughout the whole perinatal process and postpartum. So I call them and check on them, and I've had moms that are just like, you're still calling me after all this time, and just moms that have been in a crisis situation and then reach out to us because they know that we're there to support them throughout this journey. And it's really an amazing thing to see moms call back and ask for help with whatever it may be. That really makes the most impact.
And
in
I
my
think
opinion.
with this program too, what's so unique about perinatal support, it's that we know that patients who have some type of substance use issue that's going on, whether it's one that they've now found a road to recovery and they have that medication assisted treatment, or it's someone who still hasn't made that determination for themselves, or maybe it's someone who has chronic pain issues and they need to take some kind of medication every day for their pain. But regardless, all of these different things can affect the baby.
Sure.
It can affect how they come out after delivery. And so when patients are coming to the hospital for delivery, it's not a really long time that you stay anymore. You know,
Well,
it used
yeah.
to be days you could stay after you've had a baby, and now some people leave as fast as 24 hours.
Right.
So we don't have a really big time window to teach you how to be a new parent, how to take care of yourself after you've delivered, how to recover, and then navigate other complicated issues such as a baby who's been exposed to some kind of substance during pregnancy. So this whole program really got designed when we started to think about, okay, how can we better serve these patients? Because patients are terrified. I mean, if you are admitting that there's a problem going on in your life, I mean, you're worried your baby's going to be taken away. And that is absolutely not the approach that we wanted to have with our patients. So setting up this type of consult where patients can come while they're still pregnant to learn from the team about what are things that are going to be going on with my baby, how can I go ahead and get prepared to support, but then have someone like Sarah who's social work to say, okay, what really happens with the, DCS, and what does that reporting look like, and am I in trouble? And I feel like people come in with their shoulders really tense and they're so nervous, but by the time you see them walk out, they're so much more relaxed, and it's the information that team delivers, which I think is amazing. And so the team of that consists of a neonatologist, so the provider who may take care of an infant if they ended up going into the NICU. It includes a nurse educator, so someone who can help kind of teach those strategies of how to kind of calm babies, what does it look like to pacify, as well as lactation, because we really want to have these patients be able to breastfeed baby if that's something that they desire. And then Sarah is there from the social work perspective as well.
Yeah. Now, we hear a lot about infant mortality, that it is quite high, higher than it should be. Can you tell us a little bit about how much of an issue is not only infant mortality, but mother mortality due to the addiction we see in our area? Perhaps, Sarah, would you be good to answer that one?
Yeah, well, we know based on our statistics in Indiana, one of the leading causes of maternal mortality is substance use. So it's definitely a big issue. And when you're pregnant, after you have a baby, postpartum, it's a very vulnerable time in someone's life. There's a lot of emotions and a lot of anxiety and different things. So they're at high risk for possible setback or something bad to happen. So we hope that this program helps those moms by, calling and checking in postpartum if they have an issue, maybe they had a setback, or maybe they're facing some depression, that we can help direct them into the right way to keep them going.
Yeah, and I think on the flip side of it too is that while we see that risk for setback in that postpartum period, we also see that desire during pregnancy that people are willing to make a change. When they know that there's something new coming in their life and there's that baby, people are willing to have some change in positive behaviors to say, you know what, this is time for me to either quit smoking or to have a new coping mechanism so that way I can be with my baby. And so really the goal of this program is to help patients be set up for success with their family, because we want families together. That's the best place for them to be.
Sure. We talked a little bit about this before we began recording here. Can you tell us, how many patients is the Perinatal Center seeing? Roughly speaking, over the course of a year, perhaps.
So, we have roughly 3,200 deliveries in a year. And so when we look at, okay, how many patients have substance use disorder that we would be seeing, it could be as small as, a 5% in one month, but then there's another month where it might fluctuate and you see closer to 15 or even 20%. So I think it's kind of dependent on what's going on in the community and the climate. One of the challenges we saw in 2020 was during COVID. A lot of the medication-assisted treatment programs had some alterations in how they functioned, whether they stayed open. Some of them even had to close because of the operation, the budget operations for that. So we saw a lot of slide back in 2020 of what patients were experiencing and doing. So having Sarah come on our team then in 2021 to help really lead these consults and put more structure and framework around them has been really successful for us.
So you say roughly around 10% is
Yeah.
what you're looking at over the course of a year. Well, Sarah, over to you. What are some of the other issues that you see new patients dealing with?
Well, I think, nowadays, just the insecurity of food. We have a lot of people that have trouble food insecurity or, just home insecurity even. We see that a lot of domestic violence issues as well. And that kind of all go together. And then, of course, depression, anxiety, the mental health is another thing that we see that coexists with a substance use disorder as well sometimes.
Sure. All right. Well, Taylor, what else would you like people to know about the Perinatal Center at the Women's Hospital? I'm sure we haven't talked about all of it.
Yeah, so one of the newer initiatives that we have is that partnership with the Ronald McDonald House Charities at the Ohio Valley, and so we have our Care Mobile program. So that's a mobile medical unit that actually goes out into the community, and it's trying to connect people with care. And so our focus is childbearing women and their babies, and so we know that there is struggle with trying to get to appointments. We know there's struggle even trying to get access or trying to, what does it look like to get into Medicaid right now and to get that coverage. And so we sought later entry into prenatal care, so meaning it's that second trimester when ideally first trimester is the better opportunity to have that start. So that program goes out. We have several different sites. So on Wednesdays, for instance, we go partner with Young and Established. So the vehicle is parked there while people might be waiting in line for those food opportunities that they have. And so people can come onto the bus, they can get their blood pressure checked. If they're pregnant, we'll check the baby's heart rate. Really just be there for that extra extension of support. And so patients can feel that they have more information about their own health to feel empowered to make decisions. And then there's also a social worker on there as well. And so Kylie works really closely then with our inpatient team and even with Ascension, wherever patients decide to deliver. So that way those patients can get some of those needs addressed. So that way by the time we get them into the hospital and it's that shorter time frame, we're reinforcing what's going on rather than trying to start from scratch.
And so, you say an earlier start is best, that first trimester?
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. First trimester is really the better start for our patients to getting into care, but it's complex when you've got to have the different insurance coverages or trying to find a provider then who's accepting patients at that moment in time. So the goal of that bus is to help connect patients with a provider, as well as help them connect with programs in the community that are going to help them, such as home visitation with the Pre-to-3 department program at Vanderburgh County Health Department. It could be that connection with going and trying to find resources for their family with Young and Established or Potter's Wheel with family classes and so forth.
Sure. Well, Sarah, what else would you like to add from your social worker position?
Yeah, I just would like to say life is tough sometimes, and I'm sure we've all been impacted by addiction in some shape or form or know someone. It can happen to anyone, and more than anything, I just want moms to feel supported. There's a lot of stigma with it, and if we can just give them a little bit of support and make them feel like a human, but they really, sometimes they feel so judged, and we want to be there to fill that gap so they don't feel judged, so they just feel supported, because that's the most important thing.
All right, Sarah Jenkins, Taylor Fauerbach, thanks to both of you for joining us on Newsmakers.
Thank you.
Thank you.